Welcome back. In this Cover Your Assets CYA video, we're going to go over the restore process. It's actually pretty straightforward, but there are a few steps. You may want to call this the recovery process or the rollback process. I'm just going to call it the restore process from here on out. Now, in a previous video, I explained that if you know the individual file that is messed up, or two files, you could just copy those back, assuming they're not locked by the system. And you'd have to watch your permissions if you're just doing a CP command. However, there will be times where it's a little bit more involved than a single file, or it's spread out. The damage is spread out over many files through many different directories. And it could be something that an update corrupted your system, or just you want to remove some software and you want to make sure it's totally gone, at least system-wide. There could still be some traces left in your home/user/.config directory or something, or a log that remains behind. But anyway, the point is you need to roll back your system. Now, I mentioned this in a previous video, but maybe you're someone who's not listening to these videos in order, so I'll just repeat this. And it never hurts to repeat this. And there are really 2 points I need to make here. The first one is you should boot up off of a live environment. In fact, the restore, which I'll show you in a moment, the restore process, the way the script is programmed, unless you override it and change the coding, it won't work when you're booted into your normal environment. Now, there is technically a way around this. That's all I'm going to say. If you can figure it out, good for you. However, you really should load off of a live disk. So, well, it doesn't have to be a disk, but a live image to be more accurate. The image could be on a USB stick, which is getting more and more common, or you could load off of a network image. But you either put like a DVD in your drive, or use a USB stick, or you go ahead and you load off of a network image. The reason being is because you really don't want your main OS loaded at the time, because if you're going to restore, especially if you're going to roll back and have CYA check everything, you do not want, I repeat, you do not want to be having your kernel loaded and other things. That's not good. So you need to remove those from memory. That's point one. You should be on a live environment. Point two is that live environment, I have found through testing, and other testers that help me out have found that mixing major versions can be a problem. So for example, if your installed version is Ubuntu 17.10 and you try to use a 16.04 disk, there could be problems there, and vice versa. If your installed version is 16.04 and you're trying to use a 17.10 disk, could be an issue. So stick in the same overall Linux. If you're on 16.04, use a 16.04 disk. It doesn't matter about the point releases like 16.04.2 or .3. It just matters that you stay in 16.04. It might not always matter, but I just think that's good advice. So let's go ahead here, and I'm going to get out of this full screen here. And let me, for example, show you trying to run the restore command. So if I issue CYA restore, you'll see here it doesn't work. You see failed. Restore command doesn't work when your system is booted off the installed OS. Please boot off a live image and try again. That's for safety reasons. If you want to defeat that, well, whatever. The script's open and you can do whatever you want. It's your system, but I don't advise it. Okay. Now, I'm going to disable the system. So if we ls the root directory, I'm going to simply get rid of boot. So let me go ahead here and get rid of boot. So I'm going to issue a sudo remove command here, because we're going to delete a system. And as system directory, to finish that sentence, I'm going to remove this. So now if we look here, boot is gone. So this system will not boot. In fact, you notice right away these images here, there's some, all of a sudden they don't link anymore. See how they were up here? There were 3 files that were actual, they should be files. Yes, of course, because they're symlinks. So they were 3 files that were symlinks, and now you can see here that they're broken because we got rid of the boot directory. You can see here it goes to the boot. So this system's not going to load. So let's go ahead and demonstrate that. I'm just going to go ahead here and I will close this terminal. I'll close this here. We're going to issue a restart. And since this is going to be pretty fast, I'll just keep this recording running, but I will pause it from time to time because some of this will get kind of lengthy. So we're going to let this reboot. Now, without that boot directory, this system is not going to work because those are obviously key files in that system. And sometimes here this wants to cooperate, and sometimes this little reboot here does not want to cooperate. So I've noticed it can take a little bit. But as I said, you'll see this not load. Then I will pause the recording because, well, here we go. So now we're trying to start it, Ubuntu Mate, and we instantly get an error. You can see here that an error has been thrown up. It obviously, for obvious reasons, there's no boot here. So what we're going to do is, what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to simulate, I'm going to pause the recording because I'm not going to, have you wait through all that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and boot up off a Ubuntu 16.04 because this install here is Ubuntu Mate and it is 16.04. So I'm going to use a Ubuntu Vanilla 16.04, boot up off that and get into a live environment, and then I will show you the process, continuing the process there. So I will, from your perspective, be back in just a second. Okay, I have now loaded into a Ubuntu Vanilla 16.04 image, and I have gone ahead and gone into the /mnt directory. Now, in your system, you don't necessarily have to do that because more than likely you're going to have a USB stick that you would plug in to get the recovery file. And I'm not going to go over the recovery file, how you generate that. That's in another video. So I'm going to go ahead here and show you using the recovery file to actually start and make this process really easy. But as I said, if you don't know what I'm talking about, refer to the video on making a recovery script. Really, that's the file. And if you want to do this manually, there is documentation online to do this manually. Or you could always generate the recovery script and just look at it and go, oh, that's what's going on. Anyway, so if I ls this here, because I already cd'd into /mnt for mount, you see recovery.sh. So I'm going to type in sudo space and then type in recovery. Well, actually, sorry, I need to either enter the full path or put a dot here to run recovery.sh. So I'm going to do this. What this is going to do is this is going to mount my two partitions, and then it's going to run the CYA program with the restore flag. And remember how I showed you we got an error. It wouldn't run in the previous, at the beginning of the video, or earlier, because I was in my actual installed OS. Now it will run. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, so it has done that. It has echoed to say to run the command here, just as a reminder, but it went ahead and ran this sudo and then this command right here. And we see here that we see action restore. And you see here it gives a warning. It says you are about to begin the restore process, which will alter the system's operating files. It is best practice to restore a system from a live boot environment using a CD, USB, or network image. And we still have this chrooted text here, which I have failed to get rid of. Ignore that. No longer necessary. That was in a previous run of this script. We're no longer chrooting. And it says here, are you sure you want to continue? Now, you have to answer why. Anything else will go to N. And if that happens, simply just run this command right here that you see, sudo space /mnt/CYA/home/CYA/CYA, and then space restore. Oh, wow, Jeremy, there's a lot of CYAs in there. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit Y. And you'll see here that first it's saying, first we need to pick the name of a backup to restore. Press any key to continue. Now it's listing the backups here, and you can see here that we have three choices. We have go, install, and opt with the time. There's 1, 2, 3, but there's no backups there. It's not giving a time. I'm going to use go. So I'm going to type in the name go. Now it's going to say do you want to take a backup of current state before restoring? Now, depending on what's going on, I really probably highly recommend you do it anyway. If it's gotten that bad, you probably want to make a backup. What it will do is it will take a quick backup of your current system, which I'm going to go ahead and answer why to so that you may see this. And that way you can look back and refer back to those files just in case later on you realize, oh, there was something I needed, or maybe you just want to see something, maybe some kind of damage was done and you want to diagnose it. So I'm going to go ahead and answer yes to this. Now it's going to say, should files that do not exist in backup be deleted from destination? Which this will help remove unauthorized files for the directories it's going to restore. It's not going to restore everything. For example, if you have /backup in your root directory, it's not going to restore that. It's only going to do the directories that were explained in a previous video. Not going to explain that here. So, but this should be all the key directories where something would be running from, because it's definitely going to get, for example, root cron, and it's going to get anything like if you're on a system D enabled OS, which are most Linuxes these days, it's going to roll back and get rid of any unit files. If you answer no, it can leave those behind. So it really depends. I'm going to go ahead right now and I'm going to answer no. I think in general you probably were going to want to answer yes, but I'm going to, for right now, let's go ahead and answer yes. It won't hurt anything. Now it's going to ask you, do you want to be asked whether to restore each directory individually? So if you answer no, it's just going to restore everything that it has. Again, in the backup. If it's not in the backup, it's not going to touch it. So if you have /NAS/backup, it's not going to touch those. But for example, the directories it's backing up. If you answer no here, which is the default, it'll just do it all automatically. If you answer yes, it will go directory by directory by directory and ask you, and then you can say yes or no. So maybe you only want to restore var. So then you could answer this, which I'm going to do, and then you could restore just var and say no, and then you go yes to opt and no to USR or user. So I'm going to go ahead and here and hit Y, and then hit enter. Now, this is important. It says, file changes about to occur. Verify and confirm. Restoring backup profile. Go. That's what we chose up here. Backing up current state. Yes, because that's what we did. We chose yes, or Y. Delete files not found in backup. Yes, because we said Y. If we'd answer anything else, it'd be no. And it's saying, ask to restore directories individually. Yes, because we answered Y there. And then it says, data changes imminent. To start process, type the word restore in all lowercase. Otherwise, hit any key to abort. So you must type restore. If you do not type it just that way, it's not going to do it. And the reason being because you are changing your system files. Let me repeat that. You're changing your operating system files. I'm going to be a little bit obnoxious and say that you are changing your operating system files. So after this, there's no going back. That's why I recommend that you really take a copy so that you have a copy that you can revert back to this even if something goes wrong here. So go ahead and type restore in all lowercase as it says, hit enter, and it will start the process. Let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. You see here it says beginning process, checking sudo permissions, removing the log because there was a log in there from a previous time. It's saying here creating current state, and you can see here it's going into mount CYA home, which when we reboot, it'll only be /home. We won't have this mnt/CYA, but home CYA/points, and it gives restore dash. This is a timestamp. All that is a Unix timestamp. So you can figure that out just from the date, even though it's going to give a date as well, but this is just a Unix timestamp. So here you can see it's backing up bin. Now, there's no boot here. The reason being because if you recall, I deleted boot, so it doesn't have boot to back up from. So I'm going to pause the video here because this is going to take a moment to complete. It takes about, I think about 5 minutes. I'm on a spindle drive on this machine. If you really care about such things, it is a Western Digital Black Series drive. But it's going to take a few minutes. So like I said, I'll pause it. And remember, because we answered, do you want to restore each directory, be asked really, it's going to start asking us questions. So I'm going to wait till it gets to that point, and then I will resume the recording, and we will have a discussion there. So from your perspective, I'll see you literally in just like a second or two. From my perspective, I'm going to wait. Now, as you can see, it finished the process. Went ahead. You see here how I was backing up the current state, as I mentioned a little bit a few moments ago, and it's completed all of this. It even backed up a file that we had wanted to back up, /custom log. And it wrote out the data, or date file, excuse me. So it has the date file so that it will appear. It's time-stamped. It's also time-stamped in the actual, when it created the directory. And the current state backup has been completed. It's done, successful. So see, now it's asking, do you want to restore bin? B-I-N. I'm going to answer no, because remember, boot was what's wrong. So I'm going to answer no. Oh, yes, so it says skipping bin. We definitely want to restore boot. So I'm going to answer Y to that and hit enter. And you see here now it is restoring boot. And when it gets done, it will say complete. And then it's going to go through each one, as you'll see. And I'll just keep the recording going because this won't take that long. Boot doesn't have that many. As you see, now we're already on ETC. I'm going to answer N to that. I'm just going to answer N to everything else. And you might say, well, why don't you just go ahead and do Control-C? Because I want you to see what it's going to do. And then it's going to update a file. Now, I don't really care about the backup files because you are able to specify individual files. If you have a directory, you don't want to back up the whole directory. Maybe you have, say, like I do up here, where I have /custom. You don't want to back up the whole custom directory. You just want to back up the log file in there. You can specify as many files as you want. You can't individually choose those, though. It's either all backup files or no backup files. And again, those are individual files you've chosen. It is backing up restoring all the files that are in opt or lib or var. It's just, if you specified, say, 3 extra just single files to back up in addition, it'll back those up. But you don't get to manually choose those. And again, if we go up here and I had answered, do you want to be asked whether to restore each directory individually, it would have gone ahead. If I'd answered no to that, we wouldn't be asked this. It would have just done it all. So I'm going to answer no. Now, it actually wrote out to the drive. So this is it. We're done. And now you can see here it says restart your machine to load your environment. So let's go ahead and do that. Remember, it wouldn't start. It was broken. Wouldn't start. So I'm just going to go ahead here and issue a shutdown here. I'm going to issue a restart. Hit enter to get rid of eject the boot media, which isn't there. Now remember, it wouldn't start. We went into grub loader. Grub was saying, I don't know what to do. There's the boot partition, excuse me, the boot directory is missing. So there you go. You can already see it's going to load because we don't have the grub error. And that's how easy it is to restore. I'll go ahead and load here, or load into this, because I do want to show you one thing here. It takes a minute to load the environment. Go here and I'll go to menu. Go to terminal. And if I type in CYA list, well, let me full screen this. You'll see here we have this restore point. And so I can go back and refer to those files. And if for some reason I want to look for those files, I may go to home/c. Well, here, let me clear this. I may go to cd space home/CYA space points. And if I ls this, we'll see here we have our restore. So I can cd into that. And here we have our files as they were. So I can refer back to these files if I want to reference them. And since I'm here, I'm going to show you a little trick. Now, let's say that you do cd, and well, let's list this. So it's CYA list, space list. Let's say, I don't really like that I gave that go. I really don't want that to be go. I wish that had said I called that backup. Well, here's how you do it. It's really simple. You go to /home/CYA/points, and if I ls this, see how it says go here? Well, all you got to do is sudo space move go, just rename it, say backup, type in your sudo password. So again, that was sudo space mv for move, and the old name, the new name, I ls this. It says backup. Now remember, it no longer says go. So if I clear this and I type in CYA space list, guess what? It says backup now instead of go. How cool is that? So now I can refer to it as backup. That's how easy it is to change it. If you had a script here, though, by the way, you would need to update that in your script if it was looking for go, if you were using a constantly updated name. But that's how easy it is. That was a little bonus. That's how easy it is to restore your system. It's really nothing to it. And I'll see you in the next video.